Architectural styles for distributed computing. Distributed system consists of several layers. The middleware layer is the one that enables distributed computing because it provides a uniform runtime environment for applications. These architectural styles help in understanding, and it helps us to classify the organization of the software systems in general. So, there are two classes of architectural styles. One is software architectural styles, which deals with the logical organization of the software. And the second class is system architectural styles, which deals with the physical organization of the distributed software systems in terms of their major components. So before that, we will see two terms, the components and connectors. A component represents a unit of software that encapsulates a function or a feature of the system. For example, programs, objects, processes, pipes, and filters. A connector is a communication mechanism that allows the cooperation and coordination among the components. These connectors are not encapsulated in a single entity, but they are implemented in a distributed manner over many system components. So we are going to see the software architectural styles. The different categories of these architectural styles include data-centered category, data flow category, virtual machine, call and return, then independent components. Data-centered architectures. In this architecture, the fundamental element considered is data, and the core characteristic feature is the access to shared data. And the overall goal of this particular architecture is the integrity of data. The most common architectural style of this category are repository and blackboard. Repository. It has two main components. The central data structure, which represents the current state of the system, and the collection of independent components that operates on the central data. And the second style is blackboard, and it has three components. First one is the knowledge sources. These are the entities that update the knowledge sources that is maintained in the blackboard. And the second component is blackboard, and this represents the data structure that is shared among the knowledge sources, and it stores the knowledge base of the application. And the third component is control, which is a collection of triggers and procedures that govern the interaction with the blackboard and update the status of the knowledge base. Data flow architectures. Here, the availability of data controls the computation, and the design is determined by the orderly motion of data from one component to another. So we have different styles in this category, and these styles differ in these 3 points. First point is how the control is exerted, and second one, the degree of concurrency, and the topology that describes the flow of data. The two main architectural styles of data flow architecture are the batch sequential style and pipe and filter style. In this batch sequential, the separate programs are executed in order, and data is passed as an aggregate from one program to the next. So this is a classical data processing model. Here you can see the input is given here, and this filter processes that data, and output is given to this pipe, and this output is the input to this particular filter, and it goes on as. So this style provides simpler definitions on subsystems, and each subsystem can be an independent program working on some input data, and then it produces some output data. The main disadvantage of this style is that it does not provide any concurrency and interactive interface, and also it provides high latency and low throughput. Another architectural style is a pipe and filter style. This pipe is a connector that passes the data from one filter to the next. This pipe is a directional stream of data, and it is implemented by a data buffer to store all data until the next filter has time to process it. It transfers the data from one data source to another data sink. These pipes are stateless data stream. So this is a pipe and filter style. So some filters that can execute concurrently. So we can see a little bit of concurrency is being introduced here in this style. Here all filters are processors that run at the same time. Okay, that means they can run as different threads, coroutines, or be located on different machines entirely. So each pipe is connected to a filter and has its own role in the function of the filter. These filters are so robust where these pipes can be added or removed at runtime. This filter reads the data from its input pipes and performs its function on this data and places the result on all output pipes. If there is insufficient data in the input pipes, the filter just waits until sufficient data comes. And now we can see the advantages of these pipes and filters. This pipe and filter provides concurrency. So since concurrency is there, high throughput is there. Okay. So it simplifies the system maintenance and it provides reusability. And it has low coupling between the filters. And it is flexible because it supports both sequential and parallel execution. Now these are some of the disadvantages of pipe and filter style. It is not suitable for dynamic interactions. And it is very difficult to configure this pipe and filter architecture dynamically. And it needs low common denominator for transmission of data in ASCII format. And when we compare this batch sequential and this pipe and filter style, we can see this batch sequential is coarse-grained, but this pipe and filter is fine-grained. And batch sequential gives, there is a high latency, so we have to wait a lot. But in pipe and filter, there is a reduced latency due to the incremental processing of the input. There's in batch sequential external access to the input, but here in pipe and filter, this is localized input. In batch sequential, there is no concurrency at all, but in pipe and filter, concurrency is possible. Batch sequential is non-interactive, but it is interactive. Interactiveness is awkward, but still it is possible.